Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Learn with Jason. Today on the show, we have Tatiana Mac. How you doing?
Hi, I'm doing well, thanks. How are you?
I'm doing great. So happy to have you on the show. And today, well, actually, before I even talk about today, let's talk about you. Um, for anyone who hasn't heard of you before, do you want to give a little bit of a background of who you are, what you do, what you're into, that sort of fun stuff?
Yeah, so I am a interactive designer and art director who is based out of Portland, Oregon. But I spend, I would say, most of my year traveling in a way as I do a lot of speaking. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
really blessed to have a lot of international speaking events, which keep me traveling a lot. But beyond the world of design, like every Portlander and millennial, I'm really into plants. And I also really enjoy music and seeing live shows and reading.
Excellent.
Wow, I just made myself sound so boring.
Yeah, I actually think that sounded incredible.
Oh,
I'm
thanks, Jason.
doing a quick level check here. Tony, how am I sounding now? Am I at the right level? I'm attempting to fix my mic. I have a issue with like electrical hiss, so I'm trying to like turn my
Oh,
mic down to not get the electrical hiss. I've got a thing coming. But yeah, so like yeah, your Twitter feed is incredible because it's just this like long list of amazing places you're going, really good things to reflect on, and try to make ourselves better in the industry and make sure that we're like not being part of the problem. And just a lot of really good information in general. So I am, I'm very happy to have you on the show. I think it's really good to be, I don't know, just having you around. I think you're very good for us all.
thanks. I appreciate
Um,
that.
so yeah, let me tweak a little bit more here. Okay, so now what we're gonna do today is we're going to dig into um, art direction,
Hmm.
and specifically, you're gonna teach me, a developer, how to
Hmm.
use art direction, even if I don't feel like I'm any amount of designer.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I think that this is a weird skill set that often developers, especially in smaller teams or like especially startups or teams where perhaps the developer is functioning as a sole developer on an integrated marketing in-house team. It might even be the case, I would say, on larger product teams for certain features
Mm-hmm.
where maybe there aren't design resources. So the need I'm trying to fulfill is to give uh, developers a sense of what an art director does. And I think it's a role that comes from uh, very old kind of, if we think Mad Men era advertising, right? That
Right.
there's the creative director who kind of set the vision and the tone, and then the art director would typically work with copywriters and illustrators at that time to help congeal the message and to help really do the tactical work of manifesting whatever the vision the creative director set is. That's kind of a traditional model where you see art directors. I noticed that as we progressed to more of this product model, art direction didn't go away, but art direction became less of a formalized role in places, that it got
Mm.
enveloped by maybe product owners or sometimes within brand teams, like a lead brand designer would take on some of these roles. But I think that my hope is to get developers who are often responsible for making a lot of critical design decisions who don't realize it and who aren't empowered to do so. So I want to give a few more tools in the toolbox so that they feel equipped to uh, be a bit more assertive in their design choices and to feel a bit more intentionality with what they're doing.
Yeah, and I think that's such a powerful thing to add too, because like sometimes I feel like a lot of times design is just such an overwhelming thing to look at because it feels like there are a million moving parts, and changing one thing feels like it breaks all the other things. And so getting some kind of mental framework that makes it less intimidating, I think, just makes such a big difference. And you can really see when someone has had even a little bit of design training versus somebody who's just trying to fit everything onto a page. um,
Yeah.
so yeah, even if you're not a designer by trade, just a little bit of effort in learning how these concepts work is going to pay dividends, because then you're not held up by like, oh well, designers aren't free. I guess I can't work on this project until we get those resources or something.
Exactly. And I think just gaining an eye for catching things is really
Mm,
critical, is being able to look at a photograph and understand what is contributing to the page, or looking at typography and seeing what doesn't look right about this.
mm-hmm. Yeah. So, with all that being said, I feel like maybe we should dive in and see. How should we start, do you think?
Well, I think what's really fun, maybe we can tell the audience a bit about the little like survey that we did and this setup.
Yes.
But I think if we start with that, then we can dive into looking at all the components of a project, and we'll set some parameters, because I recognize that we have like free reign, so we could make like the most beautiful like sneaker app if we wanted to today.
Yeah.
But we realized that that wasn't going to be very helpful. So maybe you can walk everyone through the survey that we put out.
Yeah, so Tatiana had this amazing idea, which if you've ever watched, was it Jimmy Fallon that used to do this?
Mm-hmm.
There's this concept where he will have a guest on stage and they will do something collaborative, but like the guest will spin two wheels, and so the first one would be like a song, and the second one would be someone they needed to impersonate. So you don't just get to sing the song; you have to sing the song as someone else. And so it's this very fun kind of element. And Tatiana was thinking, well, what if we did this for this project? So to get things for our wheel, we
Mm-hmm.
sent out this survey and we asked which industry has the worst websites. And so kind of looking for like what websites frustrate you the most. And then
Mm-hmm.
what are the oddest or most off the wall things that you've seen as you've worked on projects. So what kind of things have people requested and that sort of thing. And so we have then put this into three separate wheels. So we have one for industry, and we're going to spin a wheel to choose the industry. Then we have a wheel for like must-have features, so things that have to be on the page, and we'll look at what some of those are. And then finally, we're gonna throw in a surprise at the end and spin like a last-minute request wheel that we have to incorporate into our design after we've already gotten it most of the way done. So this should be a great amount of chaos because we didn't actually write these suggestions. These came in from people who didn't realize they were making suggestions. So, so I think it's going to be
We
a
might
whole.
regret this, Jason.
Definitely might regret this.
We'll see. We'll see.
But so I went ahead and took these and put them into a wheel. So the first wheel that we're going to
Yes.
spin
So
is,
excited. Wheeldecide.com. Look at this website. I love it.
isn't it great?
It's so good.
Um, but so with this, I think we're ready. We can go ahead
Okay, let's
and
do it.
spin this wheel. All right, so we're gonna
Oh my
choose
God, it's so
what
exciting.
type of website we're gonna build. All right, we're
Oh,
building a
oh,
hospital website.
oh my God. Could it have been worse? I mean, okay, let's look at some of the others. We have
Yeah,
Scientific Journal. That's a good one.
yeah.
Oh, okay. Here's a full list.
It
So
got.
nonprofit,
Mhm.
restaurant, bank, insurance company, government office, cruel, airline. Oh, that would have been a fun one. We could have really.
I was worried we were gonna get like used car dealership or like law firm.
Uh, well, you know that I would have just made jokes. Like I would have been like Dewey, Cheatham, and Howe, or like blah blah blah. That would have had fun with that.
Yeah, so I think this is fun.
That's so fun.
This will be a good one because this will legitimately be difficult because hospitals have a million things that need to be available to people. People are going into
Right.
hospitals for tons of different reasons, regular stuff, emergency stuff, all sorts of different doctors, and we need to make that usable for someone. They need to be able to actually like find the information they're after. Um,
Right.
so that will be our first wheel, and then our second wheel, we need to have a must-have feature. So let's. These are
It's gonna be
rough
like
too.
a
Let's
dog of the executive, and
like
it's like, why is this on the hospital
so a
website?
few of these.
Oh God.
It was like an embedded table. You had to include the main person, like the client's portrait on the site. And I need to emphasize these are not made up like these are things that people have actually been asked. So,
Oh no.
um,
Add a huge banner to make it stylish.
add a picture
Oh,
of a tiger. Like, come on.
oh, I got our in. Remember Siegfried and Roy and how
Ooh.
he got attacked by a tiger? So we can be like, don't be like Siegfried and Roy, and then have a giant banner of Siegfried and Roy. I don't
uh,
remember when he got attacked.
this is gonna be so good. Okay,
Yeah.
should we spin the wheel?
Okay.
All right,
Yes,
let's
let's
do
do it.
this. I'm like hoping for some of these because some of them are really truly terrible. Oh, it's the one that was going to be realistic. Put everything
Oh
in a
God.
carousel.
No. Well, luckily I just saw Marcy's talk about incepted carousels. So we were just
Incepted.
yeah, like if you
Oh,
build a carousel poorly, it'll read all of the alt text in a um it it's like recursive and additive. So it'll read like so if you have a let's see a 3 panel carousel and you don't code it properly, it will read the alt text of the first one for the first image, but then when you slide to the second image, it'll read the alt text of the first image and then the second image,
oh
and then
no.
it'll keep counting. So if you have like a 10 image carousel, which is not that uncommon,
Yeah.
by the 10th one, it's reading like all of the alt text. Yeah, Marcy built all these amazing garbage pail components, which were hilarious. She used the garbage pail kids,
Oh, that talk
and
was so good.
yeah, it was so excellent. So if anyone out there looks it up, like garbage pail components,
Let's see if we
Marcy,
can.
yeah, we should pull it up. I wonder. I think she also has in there the GitHub, and we can actually look at that carousel.
Oh, we should definitely look
We
at
should
that.
look at it as like counter. This is research. This is like counter research as to what we should not do.
Yeah, this is like looking at the worst possible scenario.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and this is live somewhere. Or wait,
Okay,
this is
so
the.
yeah, that's the talk. If you scroll, I think if you go we're just like promoting Marcy's talk. The whole webinar is just us incepting Marcy's content.
I'm on board with it. I think
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's
putting
great.
more of Marcy's
Oh, so good. Live demo Devin. And like
so good.
that
Oh
all
wait,
those
are
were
these the
Photoshop.
talks? Okay, so these are the. Wait, what happened to the mouse?
Oh, you're no, so that's the trick. It's you can't
Oh,
touch it. Is this one it?
oh, so this
No,
is
there's one
totally
where there's a
unusable.
garbage can. Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
npm install no mouse stays. I love it.
Oh, it's so good. But there's modal dialogues trapping. No, yeah, so you'll get trapped in that.
Oh,
You can't get out.
oh no. Oh geez. Okay, so that's horrible.
Uh-huh.
And then, woof.
Where is? Oh, that was cute. You said woof, and
Here's
it
the
was
carousels.
there. It is. Okay, so image gallery, and then yeah, when she turns on the, uh, you have to turn on your
Oh, it yeah.
voiceover, but it reads like all of the. It's cumulative.
Oof.
It's
Okay.
great.
Yeah,
So we won't do that.
we won't do that. Mostly because I can't remember how to turn on the voiceover. But there is a really good. This website I think is relevant to our interests. Um,
Yes. Oh, we have to though. We
yeah,
shouldn't ever.
yeah. This is a pretty rough one. Um, but yeah, so in that we can. So we're gonna build a hospital site. We're gonna put everything in a
Oh, the
carousel,
carousel.
and to do this, we can use Figma. And so what I'm going to try to do is set this up so that you should all be able to view this, but because I have learned not to trust the chat, you don't have edit privileges, you hackers.
Yeah.
Um, so if we want to build our hospital website, so we know we need, it's for a hospital and everything in a carousel.
Everything is in a carousel. And I think that we should, of course, like the UX of this should come first. And this is going to be a really abridged UX exercise, but we
Yeah.
should think about what people really need when they go to a hospital website, right? It's kind of like a restaurant website, honestly. Like
Mm-hmm.
you need to know the address of the hospital really quickly.
Visit a hospital website. So
Everything in a drop down.
address, everything in
Address.
a drop down. That'd be horrible.
Um, like phone number, like how would you get a hold of people at the hospital for what departments?
Mm-hmm. Um, ooh, which building? So like a directory, so you can figure out where you're supposed to go, since
Yeah, like
hospitals
a
are
map.
huge.
Yeah.
Um, what else would we want?
Yeah, like which that's a good suggestion. Like which building. So if you're like looking for your appointment.
With the and let's see. So the directory could be of the building. It could be of the doctor. I guess that would be like a kind of multimodal search, honestly.
That could be so cool though if like the point of the hospital website was to first address like, okay, you're coming here and either you need to go to the doctor, you've already been to the doctor. That's kind of a binary way of treating it, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're probably missing something. But if we treat it a bit like that, is if we think about those two use cases, then if you've already been to the doctor, then you're probably going to want to do things like maybe scheduling an appointment, follow up. Scheduling appointment could also apply too, so you want to go to the doctor, but that should probably be a top tier item is scheduling.
Yeah, I think that's
Billing
fair.
questions.
Billing is definitely an important one, and I think that would probably end up being joint with insurance because you can't do
Sure.
hospital billing without insurance. Um,
Right.
and then do we want to like? I feel like emergencies are a big part of hospitals,
Yeah.
so
And I,
I don't
I
really.
wonder if that can take up like almost an alert banner style. Like that seems like a use case. You know, when you call any medical professional, one of the first things they say is if you're experiencing an emergency, please hang up the phone and dial 911.
Oh yeah, that's smart. That's
That should
smart.
probably be on a hospital website.
Yeah, yeah, that seemed like. Are you experiencing an emergency? And then like that will take you to a page that's like what to do in an emergency.
Mm-hmm.
Might just be call 911 in all caps.
It's like it would no, you know what it is? It would be an inaccessible website
Oh,
because we hate users and we're awful. Yeah.
woof. Okay. So what else would need to be on this homepage? So we've got the address, we've got the phone, a directory, scheduling, billing, insurance, what to do if you're in an emergency. Um, why else have I gone to hospital websites? You
I don't
like
know that I've ever been to a hospital website.
I'm trying to think. So I went to a hospital once because I thought I was dying. I'd had like food poisoning for like 7 days, and I was like,
Hours.
"Yep, this is
Okay.
it. That's the end." So I was trying to. Oh, hours. That's a good one. Thank you,
Mm-hmm.
Nikki. Link to the Figma. Let me put that back in the thing. Here's the link. And then what did I just say? Hours. That was a good one. And then what else? I mean, this feels like it's a good place to start. We can figure out if we're missing anything.
Sure.
Um,
And I'm like trying to even look at, let's see. So luckily we live in the same city. So let's see, legacy manual. So part of what I do with art direction is obviously a bit of competitor research, so seeing what's out there and what the status quo is. But I think part of that, I like that we did the exercise that we did first, which is again very abridged. Like you would do a longer UX
mhm.
research than 2 minutes. Though I don't know. Sometimes I look at websites and I'm like, it was just two people in a room being like, yeah, that seems right. Um, all right, so I'm going to link. This is Legacy Health, and they look like they have.
Legacyhealth.org.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I have
You have
pulled it
it.
up.
Cool.
Um,
Yeah. So, wow, holy mega menus here.
yeah, this is large. So we've got a huge location drop down, which I mean that seems good. It's like this is a network, not necessarily a
Hmm.
a single spot.
That's true.
Health services. I don't really know what any of these are. So this is almost like information. So, I don't know. And then
Yeah.
patients and visitors. Okay, so patient rights. That seems like kind of like legal disclosures.
Yeah. So maybe like a legal section. See, and I think what's fascinating about this and maybe why hospital websites are that we have to remember with this that as pure as we want our direction for something to be, there will always be like legal and technical criteria that we have to
Mm-hmm.
fulfill. And I feel like legal is always the thing that is like, all right, here we go. Like
Yeah.
legal is always the one that wants you to put in like 700 words into your footer. Um,
Yes. Oh, let's look at the footer. Oh, not bad. This is actually this is a usable footer. This is a
that's
surprisingly good website.
it's fairly concise. I'm actually quite surprised with this. I'm looking at another hospital that's a bit smaller here called St. Vincent, and this is quite a bit more streamlined down, and I wonder if our website will look a bit more like this. I think this is our St. Vincent, though. I guess it could be anywhere. Now
Where
that I'm
St.
realizing.
Vincent Hospital, maybe.
I don't know if it's the one. It doesn't matter if it's ours or not, I guess. It can be. I guess it's one in Indianapolis. It's quite a bit smaller because I think Legacy Health, like to your point earlier, is less of a hospital website and more of a health conglomerate website.
Mm-hmm.
So I was trying to find something, but I
I
guess St. Vincent is a Providence. It's one section of a health website.
Yeah, well, and this one is also a problem because the one I'm looking at is stvincenthospital.com, and it violates
Mm-hmm.
like the first thing, which is we're looking at it and there's no address.
Ooh,
So
I didn't.
maybe
I had. Yeah. Go ahead.
are there any hospitals that are like not part of big chains anymore? Like, are there such things as like local hospitals?
Are there such things as local hospitals? I'm googling that for you.
Okay, so
For us.
here's a clinic that I know exists in Portland. It's called Broadway Medical Clinic. And so it's
Okay.
not quite a hospital, but it's pretty close. And we've got some really good like bevel design.
Ooh.
That's nice.
Ooh.
Okay, so they've got a
Oh
list of
wow.
their services, their physicians, forms with no context, questions, a patient portal. That's kind of nice.
Ooh, I really like the idea of like flu shots and vaccinations. I hope I
Mm.
didn't just like call the anti-vax mob into our stream.
We, we have summoned the anti-vaxxers. Um,
But yeah, like I would say seasonal needs, which would include flu shots mostly.
yeah, I like that. So I should probably flip that hierarchy because that is there, like that. Um,
Nice.
and so, all right, so here are practitioners.
Oh,
You can
wow.
get
Why do we
appointments.
need to see their I mean, I guess seeing their face is important at some point, but do they think that that is the way that oh, is
Oh,
that automatically advancing?
oh, it sure is. And there's no way to navigate it.
That's not accessible at all. And look at the difference between existing versus new patients. You can just tell the difference visually, right? Like a new patient, look, that new patient looks so different than that existing patient.
Well, I guess in
That
this
tells you,
case, it's a new patient because it's a child, and this is an existing
yeah,
patient because it's an old man.
they mean new to this world and not an existing to this world. I see.
Oh,
I see.
jeez.
Makes sense.
Yeah,
This
this
is
is
really
so good.
good. And then the
Um,
patient portal is really helpful. Those, all those, I didn't know if you know this, but it says click here for, so that's really helpful.
oh, that's tiny. Oh, and
That
this
is
one
really
that also says click here. Well, my eyes are getting old. That was I just like that didn't even register in my brain. Um, oh, and we're renovating our clinic. Okay. I thought that was like an under construction banner for the website.
Oh, and it has like a gif of like a person with a shovel just like
Oh,
scooping dirt forever. So I think we can take some good things away from this website, though. I think what they're doing really well is that on the top, I feel like it's really smart that they have appointments, hours, the phone number is really clear,
mm-hmm.
paying your bill is really clear, and flu shots are really clear. So from
Yes.
a content hierarchy standpoint, I think this is excellent.
And it's
I think
interesting that they did this too, because it's like, oh, this is probably why people are here right now.
yes, yes, they're making
Mm-hmm.
some assumptions, and I think that's a huge part of hierarchy in such a functional website like this. Like we're not, I mean, we could have a circular conversation with this, but we're not with a hospital. We're not necessarily selling something. We're
Mm-hmm.
trying to provide like a fairly one-to-one transaction. Now, if we were selling sneakers or something, that would be a different story. But we didn't have that good of luck, and we rolled hospitals, so here we are.
Yeah.
So I think that we can take away from this website prominence and hierarchy for the most critical things, which are going to be like address, phone, how to make an appointment, billing and
Mm-hmm.
insurance questions. So that should probably play a prominent role, I would say, in our header area.
For sure. So the chat is having a side conversation about the carousels right now, and so I'm wondering, like,
What are they saying? But I wasn't
basically how terrible the idea is,
uh,
which I
I
tend to
know.
agree with. So actually, this brings up a question that's probably worth talking about. When does it make sense to push back against a client demand and like kind of lay down the gauntlet?
I think that getting the client involved in, I think that whenever you can frame something so that the client doesn't feel like it's a pushback, but
Mm,
rather you're reframing their own goals back to them. So I'd imagine in this case, if we reframed it back to them and said, well, what purpose does the carousel solve for you?
mm-hmm.
And that gets them to start talking about what they think the problems are, because I think a common trait that, especially when you're talking to, say, a marketing team at a hospital, they think that they're hiring us and we're either independent contractors or we're an agency. They think, well, if I help you to create the solutions,
Mm-hmm.
then you will spend less time on it. But that's not how design works. Design is about that process and understanding why we're doing things. So involving them in that conversation and saying, well, from our standpoint, we know that carousels aren't very performant.
Mm-hmm.
They're and you two, they're really difficult to code in an accessible manner. Three, cognitively, people don't really process information in a carousel. There's been so much UX research done about how, for the most part, people see a carousel and they just gloss over it.
Mm-hmm.
And uh, so I think that normally we would try to have a conversation about why the client thinks the carousel is so important. And you sometimes, I call it the sacrificial goat. Sometimes you give the client a thing that they seem to be fixated on, but you find a way to do it where you're not compromising the user's needs as much as possible. Like,
That's
there's a
fair.
reality to this matter, right? Like we could just say never use a carousel. That's easy. You could send your client, should I use this carousel.com? But there's clients that are just going to fixate on that. And so you just need to find a way to do it where you're protecting the user the most, and reminding the client that that's ultimately the goal is to serve the user's needs.
Yeah.
So I think in our carousel example, what I was thinking about is what are ways that we can use a carousel to bring emotion? Because I don't think our carousel should be that functional header, but maybe the carousel could be a really cool way to show off uh, the types of events that they have at the hospital, or the human side of
Mm.
this through circling through, like, maybe the children's ward has like art that they cycle through. So bringing some sort of emotion and using that motion to help provide some of that, some additional assets. It doesn't have to be a full screen carousel that says, like, so just cut off your hand, like, probably should dial 911.
And then that scrolls off screen.
Yeah, and then it's like, dial this 1-800 number. It's like 1-800, like, emergency, numbers. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I think that's good, and I think what we should probably assume is that we're not pushovers in this art direction scenario. That we're going to advocate a little bit. So maybe instead of putting literally everything in a carousel, we can do we can do what you said. We'll scale back a little bit from like everything in a carousel and just have
Mm-hmm.
one carousel.
Sure. Now, from an art direction standpoint, before we get started and we start picking out fonts and colors, which could be the eternal exercise,
Mm-hmm.
let's think about what types of feelings we want to elicit in our hospital. So, what type of hospital are we?
Okay.
Why don't we make this a pet hospital? We're such ding dongs. Then
Let's
we
do
could have
it.
had we could have had floofs. They didn't say it could be a pet hospital, right?
There was no distinction made whatsoever. This can absolutely be
Great,
a pet hospital.
great. We're doing it.
Good.
Okay, so what feelings do we want to elicit for a pet hospital?
I mean, much floof, obviously.
Okay, much floof. Oh, go ahead. Okay, so why don't you? We'll do some, like, art direction thoughts here. So the feelings you want to elicit. You said much floof.
Much
Okay,
floof.
true.
I think. I mean, if we're looking for, like, yeah, let's see. So we want much floof, and
Mm-hmm.
we want that floof to be like you want to feel like you can trust the hospital. So you definitely want to trust the website.
What gives you feelings of trustworthiness?
That's a great question. I mean, I am, a member of the Apple generation, so like high polish always makes me feel like things are high quality.
Maybe feelings of like decluttered. Like you don't want to feel like the website has a lot of stuff all over because it might make you feel more anxiety. So I think I don't know if folks have read. There's a really excellent book. Now I'm going to blank on the name, but it's by Eric Meyer and Sarah Wachter Bechter about. I think it's Designed for Emotion, and they talk about stress cases. And if we think about a hospital, that is probably one of the most stressful situations someone's going to be in, right? That they're
Mm-hmm.
either seeking like emergency medical care or seeking ongoing or chronic medical care, or it's a one-off appointment that they even a regular checkup. People feel a lot of anxiety around hospitals.
Mm.
So I think thinking about it through that lens is what are things that help people to feel less stressed. Well, I think generally speaking, people would feel less stressed by, to your point, less clutter. I would say, generally speaking, keeping the color palette feeling natural. So keeping
Mm.
it in terms of like blues and greens and browns, like feelings that are calming. Color theory wise, we probably want to avoid high energy colors like yellow and red. Those are colors that can cause, in like hot pink, basically like my my personal website. Those are high anxiety colors, and that's a reason why if you look at fast food, for example, like Wendy's, McDonald's, uh, uh, Taco Bell's a little bit different, but when you're looking at some of those fast food restaurant Popeyes, uh, those all have really high energy colors because they
Right.
want you to get in and get out, right? So color theory plays a lot into art direction, and even reading a
Mm-hmm.
little bit for developers to read a bit about what different colors mean. There's a reason why most tech websites are in blue and purples. Like they give calming feelings, and they're quite blue is quite a neutral color in that regard. So,
Yeah.
uh, so
So
color wise, go ahead.
yeah, so I
Okay.
took a quick note for a natural color palette, and then a couple suggestions came in from the chat.
Mm,
One was that trust is HTTPS and the lock. So we're going to assume that that's true because we're not actually going to build the site today.
okay.
No ads, no animations, and clear accessible text. So I think that all kind of plays into that idea of no clutter.
Mm-hmm.
One that I really like is fat finger friendly navigation. So if to kind of go back to what you said, if people are coming here, they're probably under stress, either because something bad is happening, or like
Mm-hmm.
I'm stressed out when I have to go look for a doctor, even if I'm not
Yeah.
in any kind of urgent sense. So I don't really want to have to make a lot of decisions. Like I'm already mad that I have to go look at this thing. I wish that I didn't have to deal with it. So I'd rather just go somewhere that's like, we know exactly what to do. We're going to take care of this. You don't have to worry about anything. So I think that kind of adding to the like making sure that the color palette's not freaking people out, making sure that we're not throwing 10,000 options at people as well.
Yeah. Minimal decision making. And I would say one of the things that we're going to do with that, we probably won't build all the pages today, but if we're making part of minimal decision making, and why I think, airline websites get a really bad rap. And I think there's really good reason for that.
Mm-hmm.
I just realized the sun is like right behind my head. There we go. There's a really good reason why people hate websites for airlines. But I think one aspect of them that they often or sometimes do well is only allowing you to make one decision at a time. That you're basically like picking your why can't I think the leg where you're going, your departure, then you're picking your arrival, and then
Mm.
so I think what we can really help from a UX standpoint, and which will impact our art direction, is to make kind of what we talked about earlier, making the most likely decisions people are making in the most stressful situations, the most prominent, the
Right.
decisions that they're going to be making on the fly. And we should probably design this, as we should with most things, from a mobile standpoint, because so often people are going to be coming at this from their phone, right? Like if they're in an
Mm-hmm.
emergency situation, or looking to get help quickly.
So this one is kind of we'd have to make some technical assumptions, but Nikki is suggesting that if the site had a fuzzy search, that basically you could just go there and start typing what you want to do, and it was smart
Mm-hmm.
enough to pull up those parts of the site. So you wouldn't necessarily need to add all these options like existing patient, new patient, patient portal, find a doctor, etc. I could just go there and start typing out my doctor's name or make an appointment or I'm bleeding, and it would it would
Nice.
hopefully it would get something, and then the default Robert Tables is saying that the fallback could just be like the phone number, like call us.
Yeah, I think we need to do both. I think
Mm-hmm.
that we have to think about that cautionary idea of like searches are not that reliable, and indexing of
Mm-hmm.
these types of things, that idea of natural language can be really, it can be really good, but it's revealing a bit of our language bias. Like if you think about someone who is an English language learner, they might not find a phrasing that your AI can
Mm-hmm.
detect really well. So that could be a really frustrating experience if that's the only experience. So I think we provide
That's
that as
fair.
an option, but then I think we need to provide some really clear, cut and dry, like buttons basically that are like, okay, take me here.
For sure.
And then we can kind of send them through those paths. But that's a great suggestion. I just love the idea of you like, so Jason, just so you know, if you're bleeding, probably don't go online and search a hospital website for I'm bleeding. Just as like an FYI, just take yourself to urgent care.
How do I stop it?
Yeah, 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 exactly.
What app do I download to stop bleeding? No. So.
So we should talk a bit about typography. So I think we talked a bit around this, but we talked about color, like natural color palette,
Mm-hmm.
like maybe keeping it in the blues and greens and such. And we also want to make sure that we're picking highly saturated colors so that they're super accessible, and thinking about stress case scenarios like people being outside, they're in a high stress situation, things should be really clearly legible.
And so
Um,
if we're looking at like natural colors,
mhm,
maybe we can just visualize this quickly before we go on.
mhm,
So you were talking about like red and orange and yellow and green. These are like high energy colors. But then if
mhm.
we kind of start going toward the browns, but high
Yeah,
saturation.
yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna do a quick thing because of the tiny bit that I know about color theory, and you can correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes, yes,
But so
do it.
we're looking at this window here. So let's take a look at like here.
Mhm,
So here's like a very bright orange, and so this would be like high. The saturation is pretty much all the way up, and then if we
mhm,
take the saturation all the way down, it becomes grayscale. And then
mhm.
if we go all the way to the top, that's all the lightness, and
Yep,
this is all the like all black. Um,
yep.
and then in the middle, we can kind of find shades. So like this is probably way too high energy for a pet hospital. But if we pull it
Yeah,
over like here, this might work. Or like if we pull it kind of over in this direction, this might work. And so even though this is the dominant color when you're looking at the palette, there are colors in here that we could potentially use, right?
and right, yeah, right now you're kind of in the, just to make sure that we're verbalizing some of the visual things, you're in kind of the orange, excuse me, color palette that I would say.
Mm-hmm.
So do you know about a tool called Color, Adobe Color?
Yes. Oh, it's amazing.
So that's a helpful place for me to start when I'm looking at color palettes to get my brain going. And what Adobe Color effectively does is it takes all of the different types of color harmony, so analogous, monochromatic, triadic, and it automates it for you. And it's a really great place. Like they've expanded this fairly recently, but yeah, you can find, like, you're looking at trends and you can start to see. So you might even be able to type in, or maybe you can type in hospital.
Ooh, yeah. What happens if I type in hospital?
Yeah. You type into that bar,
Ooh.
I'm bleeding.
Yeah. Oh
Adobe Color is like,
no.
okay. Like, that's a really nice.
No, nothing.
No, huh? If you go back to
Oh, I
the
don't want
hospital
similar
search,
hex though. I just want like regular.
how did you get there? Wow. It's like superimposing a term onto you. So
Yeah.
that color palette there that you just hovered over, that's on the top middle right there.
This
That's
one?
a really nice color palette. It has kind of like a softness to it. It has a couple of colors that have fairly decent contrast. We may want to bump up the contrast.
Yeah, probably take
Um,
like yeah, for sure.
but that's a pretty nice place to start. The only critique I would have of it is that I get a little weary when you have colors like the one on the far right. It's supposed to be kind of a maroon color, but that just looks like dried blood to me,
Yeah, that's
which
fair.
I think someone brought up in the chat. So we definitely want to avoid that. But I think what's nice about this is the softness. Um, it feels inviting. It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't feel polarizing. So if you go back in the tool, so like what's a color that you would anchor your color palette on? I try to always pick like my main color anchor. And if you're working with an existing brand, of course, you're going to have like a brand color palette, which you can work around. But since this is ours, what would you want to anchor our hospital palette in?
Let's see. We're in Portland and this is for pets. So let's take a good like Pacific Northwest like tree green, right?
Okay, nice.
Maybe here. How does that feel?
That feels good. Yeah. So let's copy that HSL or hex color and go back to Adobe.
And then we do I
Yeah.
want it you think in the
Yeah, you
middle?
want to put it in the middle because that'll be your anchoring color. And then we can look to see how the different colors go. Okay. So analogous just basically presents you with like a similar array. We probably want to use something that has a bit more contrast, like triadic or complementary is probably a good place to start.
Oh, this is cool.
Yeah. So it just shows like from a color theory standpoint on the wheel, um, what the different options are. So I don't use this verbatim very often because uh, the way that color theory works, you don't necessarily just want like a triadic color palette because that's
Mm-hmm.
giving you like the most opposite things. But what it is helpful to do is to say, what are other colors that might similarly work? So maybe let's look at shades first.
Shades.
Yeah. So shades is really nice because this is giving us something to kind of anchor our green in. So that's like a good middle green, but
Mm-hmm.
maybe that dark green could be a really nice high contrast when we want to reverse it out, like almost our dark mode. So maybe we copy that green over.
Okay. And then so we've got a like a middle green, we've got a dark
Mm-hmm.
green, and now we
So
can
at this point, I start thinking about purpose. So as I'm starting to pick this, I might start thinking like that dark green will work really well. I'm thinking like a pulled quote with
mm,
big, bold typography in a really light color. That green will work really well for that. The main green you picked might work. We'll want to test contrast for everything, but that middle green might work well for like a link underlining color, or it might work well for a CTA. It's
mm-hmm.
not too offensive and bright.
Yeah.
What other colors do you think about when you think about like the Pacific Northwest and pets?
Um I mean this kind of like icy misty blue here is cool. Um I feel like this would probably be better if it was like even lighter,
Yeah, I agree.
but like almost like a background like
Mm-hmm.
that
That looks
sort
really.
of. Maybe
And
we
look at
can
how what's so cool about this tool is look at how when you shifted that, it shifted the other colors, like it shifted the blue to your left, which is also a really nice blue. So kind
yeah.
of that blue, light blue, green, dark green is kind of a nice color range that we have there.
Okay, so let me pull this one over.
Mm-hmm.
That could almost be like a background color or something.
Yeah, exactly.
And then this could be our professional color for like, navigation backgrounds and stuff like that.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. What else do you think we would want in here?
So this color palette stays kind of, I think it's helpful to have maybe a small point of contrast. So if we want something to stand out, it's going to be really difficult when we're looking at all these colors to figure out uh, what like the call to action is, or if we wanted
Mm-hmm.
to really highlight some sort of alert. I think it would be hard to use any of these colors to stand out too much against the others. So we need something to complement it. So if you go back to the color wheel and um,
Oops.
yeah, play around.
But we probably want to
Maybe,
use one of these as our. Let's try this one as our
yeah,
complementary.
yeah. That sent us into a totally different palette. It's pretty.
It definitely did send us
Ah,
into a totally different palette.
so let's try the. We can play with it, but maybe even trying that orangish
Oh,
color
this one?
to the. Um, let's try both. Let's try that really bright orange color and let's try that tan color.
Okay. Whoops.
That's funny.
And
Blood red call to action. The equivalent of that How I Met Your Mother murder train puppy adoption thing. We won't use it like that.
um I mean I think yeah, I feel like this
Yeah.
so like this is kind of like a calm set
Yep.
and then this is kind of a more like agitated. And it's not really I don't know. That could maybe that's the wrong. What do you think?
I think that when we start to play with it, we'll be able to like nudge it, especially as we see what how these colors overlap. So a thing that I often do with my color palette is I will stretch those boxes down and then I'll almost like flip everything over on the other axis. I can kind of show you too. Yeah, and then if you copy that same set and then like but like duplicate it. Does that make sense? And then flip it the other way.
Like this?
Mm-hmm. Or flip it back to the
Hey, I'll let you do it.
yeah. Trying to do here is oh my god.
Oh, interesting.
So the purpose of this is to see like what colors look like on top of it. And I was trying to make them thinner.
Mhm.
Like normally I would make these a little thinner. But then I can start to see what colors like something you want to test is like vibration. So color contrast, of course, we would run this through color contrast to make sure that um, they're meeting for legibility.
Mhm.
But something that doesn't often get noted in testing is like zooming in here. Oh, you have to zoom in. Forgot. But right here, this is not a. This doesn't have. Where's my colors? No fill. I don't want fill. Like this section right here
Mhm.
doesn't have very good. Um, that doesn't have good contrast and it looks murky because they have
Right.
too many similar aspects to their hue. But then when we look over here with the green and the orange, that kind of vibrates and that can be like a positive effect. We can use that to our advantage if we know what we're doing. But for the most part, that's like not a great combination.
Sure.
So and looking through this whole range here, the orange kind of sets off nearly every color. Like what vibration effectively is that it creates like your eye can't reconcile where it should focus. So it just makes both of the two colors like compete for your attention.
I get you. Yeah.
Yeah. So we might want to then, what if we lightened that and made it a bit cooler or a bit less saturated?
Mm.
Something like that.
I see what you're getting at. Yeah.
So then this is such a like very twee. We just made this so Portland.
I mean, we're basically designing like our own like Pendleton blanket here.
Yeah, exactly. It's great. look at this. This is nice. We should sell it to Pendleton. But yeah, now you can see that there's the colors are much more harmonious. And
Mm-hmm.
I use this exercise to see like what colors I would put together. So yeah, maybe this like light green and light, or this green and light blue look nice together.
Mm-hmm.
This brown works with pretty much all of the colors. These two colors maybe less so. Um, but in terms of accents on each other, I probably wouldn't use most of these for text. So that's
Right.
something that I think about a lot is when building a color palette. I think about it from a design system standpoint. Which of these combinations would I allow text to be? And I would probably only really allow this darker blue with this
Mm-hmm.
light blue, maybe this light blue with this darker green. That's
Mm-hmm.
sufficiently contrasted. But the rest of these colors are just going to be used as background fills, and maybe helping to compartmentalize some of our sections.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah. So I think that makes sense. And then do you have
Okay.
any, so we were about to talk typography when I fell down this color rabbit hole. Um,
No, it's a good
I'm
rabbit hole. We have to do it.
Yeah, so I'm happy. I feel like I'm happy calling this color palette usable, right?
Yes, it's usable for
Um,
now, for sure.
so next we want to do body copy, or I guess we want to do text in general. So
Yes.
how do you typically tackle that?
So how I typically tackle text is I think about it from the semantic perspective. So I will literally go, all right, I'm going to type out I need an oop, oop. So I'll start with I need an H1, I need an H2, H3, H4, H5, H6. I need a body copy for a P. And then I start thinking about it from the perspective of like how many of these hierarchies will I realistically use for this website. For a
Mm-hmm.
hospital, like now that it's a pet hospital website, maybe fewer so,
Mm-hmm.
but I would say that many hospital websites, because there's a lot of long form content, will want to be thinking about this entire set.
Right.
And generally speaking, when I'm thinking semantically about this from a code standpoint, I I try to decouple visual from how do I frame this? I try to decouple like the visual styling from the content needs in a way. Does that make sense? So a lot of the time, what I see, maybe I can explain it through what I see. A lot of the time, I will look at a website and I will see that they're just using the heading tags in order to style the text. So they know that, let's say, like their H2,
Oh.
they're like, oh, well, this one happens to be the serif that I like, or this one is the sans serif. This one is like that really cool italicized version of the serif, and this is how a lot of people have embedded typography into their websites.
Okay.
And that's really dangerous because what people end up doing, especially if you have a content management system, which something like a hospital website might have so that each department could maintain, you
Right.
have people that are in there using like WordPress or what have you, and they're picking the semantic header tag based on the styling they want rather
Right.
than picking the semantic tag based on what type of content that is.
Totally. That totally makes
So,
sense.
so I try to decouple those two things, but I do use this exercise in order to help build my stack. So, um, the first thing I do when I build my stack is I try to think about I spend way too much time just like looking at other websites and seeing what types of feel I have. I
Mm-hmm.
think if we look to what I like doing is looking to other industries. So let's look at some, what do you think are some coffee shops that would have a good website? I think this would help people to feel trust in a
Let's
Portland dog website
let's
is
see.
coffee
Let's
shops.
look at let's try like Heart Roasters has good. They have a pretty good typography, I think.
Cool.
So here's yeah, so it's kind of like a wide, clean sans serif, and then kind of looks like they're
A
using
lot
that
of
for the whole
space,
website. Tons of space, and then
right?
they're
And that helps to make it feel clean and decluttered.
yeah, and then their logo has this sort of looks like a typewriter, but it's not a monospace.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's kind of the whole shebang here is all this big wide font.
Maybe let's look at Stumptown.
Yeah, Stumptown.
They don't necessarily have the best beans in Portland, which is fine, but they do have nice aesthetic. Oh, now they're branded as Stumptown and Percasset. What? Okay.
Okay. This is
Just no text.
that's
Really
kind
not
of
a good
nice.
text.
I mean
I
the
will say, yeah, their packaging design is really nice. Yeah, so
mhm.
like kind of thin, like they really like a slab serif, and I think a slab serif could be really nice. So, uh, because it gives kind of that like earthy feeling and really handmade, and I think that's like a good feeling for
Mm.
someone who's taking care of your pet, right? Feeling like they're grounded, down to earth. Like if you, yeah, if you look at this one, that's a perfect example. You scroll back up, scroll up a little bit more. So this packaging
Okay.
that has that's almost a slab serif. If you want to Google slab serifs, maybe we can look at a few uh, type options. Yeah, so slab serifs have those really thick tails, and it just makes things feel sturdy, which I think makes them feel trustworthy. It makes it feel kind. It feels, healthy. It's like a healthy type.
I get you. And so what we're
I feel like a
saying,
grandma talking about like a kid. I'm like, you like a healthy slab serif.
so like if we look at fonts as being so like this is a sans serif. So if we look at the letters, they don't have any, they just kind of like end rectangularly, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then a slab serif or like a regular serif font would be like Times New Roman. So if we look at Times New Roman, Times New Roman has these kind of serifs. So instead of ending square, they have the little like tail deals on them.
Yeah.
And then a slab serif takes these tails and just turns them into big chunks, which is why they're called
Mm-hmm.
slabs.
Yep.
So that's kind of a really really crude overview of the difference there for somebody in the chat was asking.
Oh, perfect. Um, so the what's excellent about taking this approach is typography. Someone once said that like type is what provides the voice to your words. It's kind of like the vocalization aesthetically. And so when we think back to like types of feelings that we want to get, which is like trustworthiness and making things feel safe, I think that a slab serif is a really good choice because of
Mm-hmm.
what I said earlier. Like it's very sturdy. A sans serif or a serif, like Times New Roman, people would use that to make things feel professional or polished or
Right.
uh, almost a bit like uppity. It gives more of a refinement.
Totally. Do you know? Do we have all of Google Fonts in?
We probably do. So if we go look at
Yeah.
Google Fonts, we can do a bit of searching here.
Okay. So I think I can just choose. Can I just say slab?
I think that you should be able to. Yeah, it knows.
Okay.
Just
So
write slab. Yeah.
there's some good ones in here. This Zilla slab looks pretty good.
Yeah. So something I look at, what's great about that Zilla slab, a couple of things, there's 10 styles. So I always think about weight because when we start to think about how to create text variants on our site and to have like big bold statements and big
Mm-hmm.
letters that maybe we might want to overlay over images, that's one aspect we want to consider. But then we also want to consider the legibility.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that, yeah, Zilla slab seems like it has good variants. So thinking about cognitive considerations like dyslexia, uh, I think that having serifs can help this to create variance between different letters. Because if we look at like um, an
Yeah.
L
So
versus
like here,
I, there's good
yeah.
variance there. Mm-hmm.
So here's an I, and here's an L, and they're like not the same thing, which is usually not true in like a serif font or a sans serif
Exactly.
font.
Sans serif font. Yeah, exactly. So I think that's a great choice. So let's go with that Zilla slab.
Okay, let's see if I can actually find that in here. Did it work? It did. Hooray. Okay, so we've
Nice.
got Zilla slab,
Okay,
and then
perfect.
make that
And what
just a
I
little bit bigger.
always do when I pick something is I think about the font stack that the developer is going to build, and I make sure that I basically have a system font equivalent to this. So we can look. This is probably closest to, I would say, either Courier. I think that's a good thing for most developers to do is to memorize all the system fonts.
Mm.
But this is probably pretty similar to Courier, or we could even call it. I'm trying to think if there's any slab serif. It's not a slab serif, but that's kind of close. Georgia.
Georgia, yeah, Georgia's not bad. That's pretty.
It gives a different feel, but it has kind of the similar weightiness of it.
Yeah,
So what we could do here when I think about this is I'm like, all right, so the font stack that I'm going to want to have is going to be something to the effect of Zilla. Is it Zilla slab?
Zilla slab, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then maybe I might suggest Courier, and then I might suggest monospaced, and that's the aesthetic I'm going for.
Okay, cool. And then for these, do we want to do anything with like weights or anything like that?
Yeah. So as I was saying earlier, like what we'll do is we will kind of build this out for size, but then when we go to actually code it, the point that I'm making is we shouldn't hard code the styling into
Mm.
the H tags. Those should then become different class stylings
I
because
got you.
I don't think we should ever hard code the styling into the semantic meaning the of the H tags. If that makes
Got you.
sense.
Got you. Got you. So then, do we want to? I guess where would we go next? So we've got Zilla Slab. We know that we're gonna
Mm-hmm.
fall back to Courier if that's not available.
Yep.
Um,
So let's pull up some lorem. We should probably use hipster ipsum.
100% we should hipster Ipsum.
So
And to those of you who are uninitiated, this is the best website on the internet. It's so
we'll
it's so
we'll do
silly.
hipster with a shot of Latin today.
This stuff is amazing. It's like shabby chic, biodiesel, taxidermy,
Good.
all important. Um, okay.
So good. Lift Wayfarers, Narwhal, Celiac, do a sustainable salvia hoodie. So good. Freegan bicycle rides. So good. So what I starting with my P tag. So I have some like easy cheats is that I always try to make my body tag. I always push it as big as I can.
Mm-hmm.
Probably no bigger than the range I usually go is 18 to 24 for legibility purposes, right? This is a fairly weighty font, I would say. Like if we compare this right now to even Times New Roman, I'm gonna like see how it just got smaller, even though it's the same font size. So, or like even if we go, I'm trying to think of like a really small one. Do they have Dido in here? No. What about Baskerville? Yeah, see how it feels smaller, even though this is 18.
Yeah.
So we can probably get away with keeping this not too big. So start it at 20. And then for body text, I always try to keep my line height between 1.25 and 1.5 because this is like we can read this with a book, but when you're staring at a screen all day for that, that's quite tight.
Yeah.
So if we bump that up, say to the line height to 1.5, does it calculate? Oh shit.
No,
so let's do the math quickly. It'll be 30.
30, yeah.
1.5. That looks a little loose. So I might do 28. Might cheese it a little.
That seems good.
Yeah.
It's like pretty.
So it's about 1.25 or so.
Yeah, and this font, I think, because it's so like chunky, it feels like it can be a little tighter than maybe this Times New Roman could be. Because if we take the Times New Roman and make it like 20, and then make it 1.5, like that actually feels like a good reading distance because it's such
Yep.
a thin font.
Exactly. It's a really good point. So that's why I think art direction is so helpful is that I think often developers are looking for like a number, like, cool, I'm going to put my type in and I'm going to make the line height 1.5. But if we did that unilaterally across all these typefaces, they don't look the same, right? Like this one
Mm-hmm.
needs to be quite a bit, like we might even want to put that one like 24. That's, oh gosh, I'm so bad at math right now. But that's not enough. We might even kick that up, to 28 or
Mm-hmm.
26. That's quite a bit more space that we're giving to it to make it more legible. And these
Mm-hmm.
all three now have different numbers associated with it. But let's make it for clarity here. They all have different numbers associated with them, but they're all technical for line height, but they're all technically the same size. But I
Mm-hmm.
would say that they look about the same like amount of legible.
Yeah, roughly
So
the
it's about
same.
gaining, yeah, it's about gaining a bit of that eye for being able to say, yeah, that feels a little tight, this feels a little loose. And that comes in with, of course, user testing because we have a lot of biases. So we need to make sure that we're not just like looking at it for ourselves. But for the
Mm-hmm.
purposes of today, um, designed by a two people committee, the easiest type of design is good.
Okay.
All right. So now we have a good basis. And what I look for in creating my full like header stack is thinking about purpose and use cases. Let's think about some type use cases that we will likely have on our hospital website. Types of type that we'll have.
Yeah,
It'll
and
have,
just to we might want to limit this down to just the homepage since
mhm.
we're coming up a little close on time.
Yeah, totally.
So I would say like we're gonna have uh, we need like our header and navigation. Those will be
Hmm.
big ones. Um, we're gonna have call out boxes of some
Hmm.
sort. So we'll need like drawing attention to specific actions. We'll
Hmm.
probably have some smaller text like in an about section or some informational type of deal. Um,
Yeah, I
and
would like almost like legal
like
type text.
footery kind of, yeah.
Hmm.
Um, and then what else? I think that might really be all we see on the homepage.
Sure. And we're designing this mobile first. So
Mm-hmm.
let's change this to, oh God, why are iPhone X's so ridiculous? Let's do a Pixel. Okay, so going back, if we're building our navigation, are we going to make a hamburger navigation, Jason?
If we can avoid it, I would say no, because I think that
Okay, so what if,
hamburger nav is cognitively, at least, I've seen that it people tend to not see them.
mhm.
So if we can make the information like, again, fewer choices, right? So that would mean fewer clicks and not having to expand a nav would be, I think, ideal. So maybe we can pull out like the top two or three things that people would need and then have a more option that would pull up a hamburger nav or something.
Sure, I like that option. So what are the things that we feel like we talked about having an alert. So that should probably take up some of the room here,
Mm-hmm.
right? If you are, I mean, this is kind of weird because I don't know technically if for pets, if it's an emergency, do you call 911 still?
Uh, that's a great question.
We'll just say for now, yes. But I don't, for anyone listening, I don't know that that's what you're supposed to do. I think you're supposed to call a non-emergency number if it's for your pet. But
What if we call it K911?
yeah, oh, those poor cats. It's fine. Okay, 911. That's so good. I just realized what you did there. All right. So we're going to use, because this is an emergency bar, oh, we don't have an alert color per se, but maybe this color. Should we add all these colors to our color palette yet?
No, I definitely didn't do that.
Oh my gosh. That's fine. I'll just do it the janky way. It's so hard when you get used to having a setup and then you're like, why isn't that set up?
For sure. Yeah, the to while she is setting that up, I'll show if we set one of these colors, we can like click the color styles and then click this and say like tan or something. And then now in our local styles, we have like the color is there. So we could put our whole color palette in as named styles so that we could just choose them as opposed to having to like go down and click the box and get the color and then put it back in. Yeah. Okay. So we've got our, go ahead.
Why isn't it? Did you not install my full font set?
Oh, what happened?
It's saying missing fonts for me, but maybe is it just because it's on my computer? Does it call it locally or is it embedded?
Well, Zillislab should be from Google. Maybe you need to.
Oh, I wonder if it's because I'm using this locally.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I don't know.
Are you? Ah, there we go. Never mind. That was just a weird fluke. So I want this to be bold. So I'm just setting a little alert here. And then we decided that hierarchically, the most important things are the phone number.
Mm-hmm. And then we can call it Floof Care, can be the name. I'm just going to put some names in. So then we also wanted the address. So we'll say I'll just give it a address or a general address, and then scheduling, billing, insurance, hours. They're gonna have easy hours, so it will be 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday. And I'll just set these off to the side so that you've got them when you need them.
Perfect. Trying to offset. I always start with a grid just to make it easy. Trying to offset a margin here. So we'll say 30 pixel margin. Perfect. I think part of trustworthiness is just alignment.
Ooh,
Like
wait, how did
consistent.
you, this is new to me. How did you set the grid up? So I just found, I clicked on the frame and I found layout grid.
Yep.
How did,
So yep. So layout grid gets turned on. So you have to
uh-huh.
first go to object, or what is it under? Yeah, view, and then show layout grids, which we clicked on. And then
Okay.
it pops up this window over here. And then when you add a new grid, which this is so awesome about
Oh,
Figma, is you can do both, which is really helpful to me and wanting to get really anal retentive about this, is you can add multiple grids. So here I just added one that was uh, a column grid, which is probably what we would base our grid on when we're coding it. But
right.
then I also added kind of your standard graph paper grid so
Mm-hmm.
that when I'm spacing stuff, I can either do it with my keyboard or I can go ahead and do it with just seeing the number of bars in between. So if we're trying to space multiple things, it's just helpful to be able to say, oh, there's 2 boxes, that's 20, or there's
Yeah,
6 boxes, there's 5. So I
that's really
usually turn
helpful.
those on. Yeah. So Fluke Care. And then the phone number. Wow, the phone number takes up a lot of room.
Yeah, so we could do what was kind of interesting about some of those sites that we looked at was that they had almost like an informational bar at the top.
Mm-hmm.
And so we could even, I guess we're going to eat up a lot of our space with notices if we have like the emergency banner and then the address and phone number and then the nav.
Mm-hmm.
There wouldn't be a lot for content.
But isn't that kind of our content? Like, that's my
Yeah, that's true.
curiosity.
That's true. Yeah, I
So,
wonder, because we'd want it to be accessible on every page, but we'd
Mm-hmm.
also probably want it to be really prominent on the homepage.
Yeah. Like I feel like the phone number, the address, those are all things that like don't seem very sexy. And so I think that most people are probably accustomed to scrolling to the footer to getting to them. But what if we
Oh,
just,
did you want to use? I saw that you changed the phone number to Rubato. Did you want to keep it there? I just changed it to Slab, and it has like drop numerals.
whoa. Yeah, drop numerals are kind of difficult. I don't know that I love that. So maybe that's a compelling reason to add a simple sans serif for some of this type of information.
Yeah. If we went with like the system font, I think SF is the like the Mac system font.
Is that in here?
I
Is
don't
it showing
know.
up for you?
So I have it, but I may have installed it locally. Maybe we can do like
How about
Arial
Source Sans Pro?
source sans. Yeah.
Source.
Okay, so I think that's it. Oh, and that's a little more narrow too, which is nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, so a question in the chat: could we make the emergency text hideable so like somebody could clear that and get their screen real estate back?
Yeah. I was trying to give room up here and I was trying to figure out do we want to have like a close, just a
Mm.
close button or something that once you scroll past it, it goes away. Um, but yeah, some sort of close here
Yeah.
would probably be good.
Maybe I'll get the multiplication symbol.
Oh, yeah, you do that. Oh, we have to integrate a carousel.
Oh yeah.
Maybe the
Um,
carousel can help to show what types of floofs are to kind of expand. Because I think most people know that, like, for floof care, you're looking at dogs and cats, but maybe we can use our carousel to show our expansive list. So something that's non-critical information that people could figure out another way.
yeah, I think like what would you want if I was going to this site? I would want um, probably like photos of healthy dogs and cats. Seems like something that would be desirable. Um, so maybe, hmm.
I'm I'm in a rabbit hole. I'm not listening to you anymore. I'm looking at dog photos. This is really dangerous. It's like really, this is my dream dog right here. I'm gonna pop into our Figma carousel that we have to use. Did it paste? Where'd it go? Why is it not letting me paste?
I don't know, but now I like really need to see this dog.
I know. It's so so good. I've been wanting a dog for so long, and it's
I know I would really like to get a dog, but I travel so much that I'm like I'd be a terrible pet owner.
no. Yeah, I also travel a lot, but figure it out. We could both get dogs and just coordinate our travel schedules and then babysit.
Yes, I'm into
Why
it.
won't these images come up? This is
Um,
so. I wonder if it's something to do with the shared characteristic of this. That's fine. I'm just gonna upload it then, do the old-fashioned way.
okay, so then we need like
Look at that floof.
oh, this is a very good dog. Wait, where'd he
That's a
go?
very good dog.
Where'd he go?
I moved him over
Oh, okay. All right.
or it
Yes.
over.
What
Oh my
that
god.
is adorable. That's just a snowball with legs.
I know, and it's gonna continue because I'm just gonna do other ridiculous, also floofs. My friend has a beautiful Persian cat, so we're gonna do this in honor of her cat.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh, look at this ridiculous cat. It just took over your entire screen. Well, what are other lesser known floofs? Like,
Let's see. We could add. Where you at, chat? What are good floofs? That is a very cute cat. We rate dogs. That is a good. That is a very good Twitter. But that's not another floof. We need otters.
a different
Otters are
type
good
of
floofs.
otters.
Let's see. Um, oh wow. Yeah, these are. And this will be the remainder of the stream is looking at otter photos.
Ferrets. That's a good one.
Ooh, yeah, ferrets. Ferrets.
Oh, there's that cat that's really overweight in Oregon.
Oh no.
Uh, oh, what is that cat called?
Have you seen the
Uh,
chonk chart?
no, that's a good. This very serious hospital website has devolved into just
Let me find this.
like
This is
a
like my
flip.
favorite silly thing that I've seen in a while. Um, Here it is. Yeah. So this is a. Oh, you can't even read it. So it starts with a like healthy cat, 20 or like a 16 to 25% body fat. He's a fine boy, and then a little bit more. It's like, oh, he chonk. Then he becomes a heckin' chonker.
Oh my
Then
gosh.
a hefty chonk, a mega chonker, and finally at above 65% body fat, it just says, "Oh lordy, coming."
So good.
High quality content. So let me get an otter. I'm just gonna pick. This is our otter. I'm. It's probably not a legal otter. Just putting it in anyways. And then we need what? Do you think? I mean, that's probably fine. Yeah.
Yeah, three. I think otter is a good choice. So I'm going to flip our hierarchy here
Okay.
so that our navigation, the reason I'm doing this is so that our navigation doesn't move when this alert goes away.
Smart.
And then I flipped it out because I wanted to lighten our palette because we talked about airiness being a big aspect of this. I think it would be helpful right now to have a big statement like we arrive at this page, we want to know, let's say, emergency 24/7 health floof services. Floof services, check. Floof services and
And
emergency
maintenance.
24 hours and floof services and floof maintenance. So I think this is like a good bold statement. We, unlike our body text, we can keep this a little bit tighter because if we use the same rule of our body text, like
It would just be
1.25,
huge.
that would put us like here, and that just looks loose. And when things look loose, they can look kind of like messy and unprofessional.
Mm-hmm.
So we can tighten this up a little bit. We don't want our, if you look at like when you're doing type like this, you want to make sure you're stress testing it for descenders, so letters that drop down like Y and G, and then seeing how they fare up with letters that ascend like F's and L's and H's. Those all come in to play. I've seen a lot of websites where it's clear that people spaced it based on non-ascenders
Right.
like this, and then it's like, oh, they see this, and then they'll space it.
Like really tight.
Yeah, and then they'll space this like this, but then you know when you're looking down here, it starts to run into each other, and that looks
Mm-hmm.
unprofessional. Okay, now I got to change this into semi-coherent. Emergency services, proof services, our service. floof services. There we go. All right. So we have a lot of typography going here. So what I might do is try to find a way to contrast this with everything. Like everything looks kind of flat right now.
Mm-hmm.
So let's make this like, does it work for you to bold that? It just gives me a weird.
Let me see if I can do it.
Yeah.
There's semi-bold. There's full bold.
Cool. Awesome.
I think, did you want it to be like one line height? Or did you want it tighter?
I need to fix that. Let's fix that. Can you fix it?
Okay, so I just...
Collaboration mode has... Yeah.
There's like a lag, I think.
Did you hide it out?
So I set it up as bold and one line height. Can you not see it anymore?
Oh, it still looks tight to me. Can you make it 1.25? So make it to like 50 maybe. Let's try that. That's too much. Maybe split the difference with 45.
Okay. How's that?
That looks better. Let's pull in something illustrative into this, because I know that we're going to add our carousel in underneath.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God.
No, this will work. This will work.
Yes.
I think that might be the first sound effect for the whole stream.
There we go.
Good. And then I think we can make that like clip, I think. Oh, they're not in yet.
So let's group them. Oh, did those sound effects just happen?
Yeah, so that's because of a subscription, which thank you very much. I appreciate it. The other ones get triggered by the chat. So the chat can just like make noise whenever they want, which today they're like surprisingly quiet. Usually it's full-blown chaos in here. I think we've captivated them with pictures of...
Oh, so we would need to add code.
There they go. So yeah, now we've just got very good floof content, and I think they're all very on board with this.
All right, so we got all kinds of content up in this piece. So I like to throw everything onto the artboard and kind of look at what do we need to prioritize here.
Yeah, so I see we've got the notice if something is wrong. We've got the top level navigation, which I wonder if we want to put the address and the phone number together so we can get that out of the way.
Yeah.
Like potentially just even in the same text block. Oh yeah, maybe we could put all that info up there and then it really gets compact.
Well, and I'm wondering if too, like, that we could have some sort of signal of open or close and then people can see the hours.
Hmm. You mean like only show, well, so like, and we probably could skip the Portland part because we would assume that someone would, well, maybe not.
We're like doing the reverse of what most websites are, which I think is actually great because I wish that more websites had this, like, it's not fun and it's not exciting, but being able to include like the most critical information up top.
I used to have this this dream that I would build websites for restaurants, and all I was going to do is just put their hours and their address on a page with like a link to look at their menu. And that was it. That was the whole website. And then I worked with a couple restaurateurs, and they were not having it.
Yeah. I think there's a way we can do this better. So we can say open to Friday. There, that kills us 2 lines. Content is everything.
Yep.
Oh, look at all this content. But it's good content. It's important content.
Yeah, I think this is useful, and it's kind of what I want when I go to a website, especially like if I'm looking up a vet, what I want to see is, can I go there now? Like my cat just threw up all over my room and I'm pretty sure that it's sick. I need to take this thing to a vet. I'm going to look up a website. The first thing I want to see is this close to me and is it open now?
Mm-hmm.
And then I can just tap that phone number and say, can I bring in my cat right now? That
Yeah.
that to me seems like, yeah. And then it says, yes, so a description of services. So maybe that would be we can drill in deeper there, like link into a full list of services or something.
Yeah. So we can create a CTA style here. And maybe for this,
Oh, we chat's calling us out because we set hours, but we're saying that we're 24/7.
damn it, open
I mean,
daily.
we could just say like 24 hours.
Wow. That's a good catch. There's always that person in, like, I always appreciate them, but I feel like they always get a lot of flack in meetings who's like so fixated on like the correct details in something, and you're like, okay, you're right. Like you're okay, you're right. That is wrong. Love it. Okay, so CTA styling. I still feel like everything feels a bit heavy, and I think part of that is spacing. Let's move some of this stuff out. Like there's a lot of content density that we need to break up with visuals here.
Okay. So I wonder, maybe we can make this big chunky headline um, a little bit smaller, and then we could put like a hospital icon or something on it, like the cross.
Yeah, I feel like we need
What
to
are you
bring
doing,
in a feeling
computer?
of
Why? Why are you
trustworthiness.
like this?
We need to bring in so good. Um, we need to bring in some feeling of trustworthiness. So maybe we need like a nice illustration
Where's a good
of
place to
that.
look for those? Like, do you have services that you like?
There are so many good like designers who have created like these beautiful illustration, like stock illustration sites, and I'm of course like blanking on all of them right now. Um, but why can't I think of any? I literally just blanked on all of them.
Let's see. I see one called Storyblocks. There's Pixabay, which is, I think,
Yeah.
a lot of folks know about. Pexels, Dreams
Mm-hmm.
Time,
Axles.
Stock Vault. Let's go to let's go to Pexels. And we will go for. We're just gonna put in vet and see what comes up. Nothing. Let's try doctor. This might not be the website. I mean,
Let's
there's a.
cheat. I googled it. I just
Okay.
cheated, and
All right.
I actually used DuckDuckGo, but I DuckDuckGo'd it, and I found us. Um, let's see. Look at this. We're just making the world's most like hipster site here. Come on, hold please. I can't. It's too much.
Oh, load up.
It kind of looks like you.
Oh, jeez. That's adorable. That is a pug with a PBR. That is that is
It
outstanding.
is a Portland website, right?
It is
So we're gonna make this.
an extremely Portland website.
Can you fix the font because this font box hates me and it won't let me fix it.
Okay.
It belongs to you.
Well, that's silly.
We'll narrow it down.
Holy
I'll make
buckets!
it
Did that just
pug
work?
not so big.
Let's see. So maybe like yay big, and then
Yeah, that sounds good. That's a nice proportion. We got 3 and 2. And I'm going to cut off this pug. And that's like a strategy I really like using when designing down to mobile, is that at desktop we could show the full pug and give it a bit more breathing room. But to kind of aggressively cut something in mobile is a nice way to give the feeling like almost that you have more going on outside of the screen, but not cutting any critical content, right?
yeah.
Like the pug's right elbow isn't that critical. So then we can just kind of clip it, and that gives us more room for text.
Yeah, and it makes the site feel like, I don't know. I feel like when you crop stuff, it makes things feel a little bit more designed. Like they feel like they're, instead of just being like plonked in the middle, it's actually placed on the screen.
Right. Don't plonk your chonks.
Don't plonk your Exactly. Don't plonk your chunks.
I want this website to be like brighter. I feel like it just feels kind of heavy still. I think I'm just being really self-critical right now.
Maybe we can.
Or just-
Can I hide the? I'm gonna hide the grid.
Yeah, the
I
grid is
mean,
probably not
if you hide the grid, it actually looks pretty nice. Maybe we can make this font even a little bit lighter. And then what if we use one of our color palette colors instead of the like heavy black? So if I do this blue, that's maybe too bright, but if I like darken the blue, that looks nice. And I think that has...
Yeah, that looks a lot better. I think that I want to lighten up the header because
Okay.
Something you want to think about with weightiness is that we made this really weighted in 2 ways. We made it weighted in both terms of height, it's taking up a lot of vertical real estate, but then we also made it really heavy in terms of giving it this dark, deep blue background. So we can cheat this a bit by, and then maybe we'll inverse this out, is maybe we can give a sense of blue there. Change this all to black for now just so we can see it.
Oh yeah, that just lightened up a lot.
Right, and then now we can reverse this back out. And maybe we do decide to make this, I just want to make this alert less alerty.
What if
we round its corners?
That could work. And I was also wondering, like, what if we just decrease the opacity on that to make it like still a call out, but not quite so like ba-bam?
Yeah. What was that?
Ba-bam!
Yeah, and it's at 20, and 20 is a good base body size, but I think with this, we might be able to get away with making it a little bit smaller. Like, it just hates me. Anything in Zillslab hates me. It won't let me.
And you were going to make it a smaller font size?
A little bit, yeah. Maybe like 18 or...
Okay. Maybe like semi-bold. And then we can probably even decrease the font size just a touch, or the line height just a touch.
Yeah, there you go.
Buys us back some real estate.
And then let's match this. No.
Oh yeah, de-emphasize that a little bit.
Yeah, and this probably isn't great for contrast, so I'm going to do a little trick, which is what you were talking about earlier with the hues and levels to make this darker.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to bump down the level, so you can see that that's getting it's a darker tone.
Yeah,
but it still matches.
So yeah,
so
this circle now is it's the same shade, or it's like still the same color group, but
It's still the same hue and it's still the same
yeah.
saturation, but it's not the same level. So that's a really good trick when you're trying to address contrast and you want to
Mm-hmm.
keep kind of the same vibe. It's a really good dev trick is working in HSL takes away a lot of I think confusion in that realm because you're literally just changing one value and you're certain that you're not like changing a bunch of other values.
And so
Um,
HSL, if you're looking at something like Figma, is just one of the ways of. So all of these, Hex is probably what we've seen the most of as developers. RGB is like the red value, the green value, and the blue value. Uh, CSS, oh wow, that's cool. It just like drops it into CSS style. And then
mhm.
HSL is hue, saturation, and lightness. So hue is like where we are on the spectrum. The saturation is from the right side is 100% saturation. The left side would be 0% saturation, and the lightness is like 0% lightness is down here where it would be black, and 100% lightness would take us all the way up to the top here where we wouldn't see any color at all. So if we keep the same hue but drag this around, we're always in the color family. We're just not necessarily. But if you're looking at this border down here, like these all kind of look right. So we can just kind of drag it around until we see something that looks correct. I'm going to undo that because I think we already had a good color in there. But yeah, so that's a way that we can kind of mess with the colors and get quite a bit out of them.
All
Cool.
right. Our website's really coming together.
I think this website's
I
great.
I think that we're missing um, some. I think we're missing some a place to clearly pull your eye in. Like right now, when we look at this, I think that it's really uh, the first thing that your eye goes to is it almost takes an arrow
Mm-hmm.
and it goes like this. So I think we need something to help counter this effect by counterbalancing that type. So while um, it was good that we made this smaller. I wonder if there's a way that we can help to create a bit more impact on this side. And now I'm remembering we needed a CTA over here,
Yeah, what if we just give this a big old button? Like CR
like
services or
giant.
something.
Mm-hmm.
All right, big old button incoming. That is a huge button. I'm going to pull one of our colors out. Maybe we try this green that we haven't used yet because it'll match the pug's shirt.
Yeah,
Oh,
and that helps
wow,
to
that
create
worked.
some balance.
That worked excellently. And then I'm going to round the corners, and you used what bit radius? 20. So I'll use the same.
It's aggressive. Yeah, let's
Okay,
knock that down. Let's knock it down to 15.
15. Okay, so that's our 15 pixel image there. And then if we take our font and we say, see our services, and maybe we use like what one of these is. I forget which one it is. I used to know how to do this. I had all of the like the shortcuts. Remember.
You want you want the guillemette probably.
I'm learning a word today. Maybe I know what that is, but I can't remember. Yeah, look at that one. Okay, that's excellent. So then we can take this and drop it down to what, like 24-ish,
Yeah.
but make it bold.
And I would offer the
Eh.
suggestion that for our contrast, we're kind of using, I think we should make this sans serif in our
Oh,
Source
okay.
Sans Pros to offer
Source
contrast in
Sans
this
Pro.
area.
Nope, that wasn't the one I wanted. Did you? Oh,
Oh, it
you
hates
already.
when we both do.
No, you
It
got
hates
it.
when we both do things.
You got it. Um, okay, so we've got that, and then if we change this, I don't want to just make it like plain white. So what if we pull in that like, does that work or is that terrible?
No, we can do that light blue.
Then we get our services. And so now that we have this, it feels like maybe there's a little too much breathing room. So how would you go about like cleaning up this button?
Yeah, so I think that what's funny about this is I think developers have a huge advantage in this way, in that often you're designing these things in the browser. So, how I think about this, and a trick I like to use, is I like to use stroke as almost my fake padding. So, I
Okay.
turn it, whenever I do a trick like this, the first thing I do is I pick a really garish color that I would hope to most people, though I don't know, feels like it's incorrect, right? And
Okay.
then now I'm using, you can use this almost as like a padding
Oh,
trick,
look at
right? Because
that.
that's how the CSS is going to render it. And
That
generally, looking at a rounded corner like this, we want to look at this idea. So I'm going to draw some lines here. It's going to get really, oh my God, got to pick all these garish, like clear colors. So you can start to see where the rounding starts, like the apex of the curve. You
mm-hmm.
don't ever want your text to be like this because that looks
Right.
incorrect, right? And so what's helpful about setting this stroke as an inner method is that you can then see, I see. So we should really have our text start here and not go any further than over here.
Mm-hmm.
And that fits into there. And then we would, of course, have our box fit to the content. So it would be about to there.
Mm-hmm.
And then on both sides here, we can just kind of tuck it in using that stroke property.
Okay, so I have a question for you, and this is
Sure.
more like a
That might help.
philosophical question than I think one that has a true or false answer. But like,
Sure.
what if we include something with a descender? Like, do
See our,
we?
see our servicey.
But so if I'm looking at this, like, then do I want this to be kind of
Mm-hmm.
here with our um, with that sort of a centering, or do we want to? Yeah, how would you go about this?
Okay, well, first, my question to you is uh, I, what is going to happen in CSS? So, how is the CSS going to care, and how does it weight the alignment of something like this?
So I think the way that CSS manages this is it's going to account for our line height. So if we set our line height to be like 1, then I
Mm-hmm.
think this is what we're going to see. And if we set the line height shorter, it would kind of pull up into there.
Mm-hmm.
Or we can kind of brute force it with negative margins and things like that, which is something that I don't know that I would recommend, but I see happen a lot. Now, if we look at this, like, it's kind of, I mean, it seems okay, right? But
Right. So let's do a quick comparison. So, eh,
yeah, so this is the challenge, right? Is because now
mm-hmm.
it's visually centered, like optically centered on the bottom one,
Yep,
but it's actually centered on the top one.
correct. So I think that with this challenge, we kind of have to accept that um, we can either modify and kind of hack, like you're saying, our CSS to make it fit height wise, or we can just recognize that we should design it for almost like as neutrally as we can and let it be flexible. Because I think that we're in an era now where content is being changed and managed by so many different people
Mm-hmm.
that we need to we need to forego some of the minutia of design that we would want to have, like with a controlled medium like print, where we know it's going to print in that way,
Totally.
it's going to look exactly like that. But there are so many factors that come into this that I would say, as long as it still remains legible, as long as it's still technically centered,
Mm-hmm.
and will be, I think, more importantly, like our button system is centered. That's the most important thing. So like if we, I think when we're looking at this, there's going to be at some point some sort of like view all doctors. That's going to be another one. Or we're going to have a CTA that's find a provider. And whatever
Yeah.
system we're using, like this is why I believe so strongly in stress testing the system. And I love that you invited Servicey to the table, is that what is the system we're using to center all of these? And is it providing the most neutral option for all of them?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so this is where I kind of start to cheat. Like historically what I would do is I would take this one and I would
Mm-hmm.
just add a little less bottom padding and a little more top padding to kind of optically center it so that it's fine here and it's still fine here. But if we take this padding off, while it's not exactly centered, it looks pretty darn close.
Yeah.
So that's typically like how I've approached this, but I'm all like, I almost feel like this is kind of like asking if a hot dog is a sandwich because there's not a right answer, but,
Yeah.
but I feel like it's something that's worth discussing because it is kind of hard to do, especially when you're getting into CSS where things are like, these are the rules and things are going to be like this no matter what the content is.
Exactly. And there's ways to cheat it. And I think it's just determining whether you want your code base to get that complex
Mm-hmm.
um, to include all of those cheats, and like how many people are maintaining that code base,
Sure.
and will they realistically like set those types of things? Because what I would say is that the flip side is if you have a couple of CTAs that aren't quite centered and then some of them have been manually centered, that makes the entire system look inconsistent.
That's
And
true.
I think that it's better to have a system where things might be slightly wrong, but at least they're consistently slightly wrong
Mm-hmm.
than they are uh, inconsistent.
You
Like I'd
hackers,
rather have a
you
sandwich that's just
dirty
like,
hackers.
that was such a good interruption. Um, because it was so accurate. It was like, yeah, we do hack CSS all the time, but like I would rather have a sandwich that's consistent every
Mm-hmm.
time I go there. That's fine, than to sometimes have like an amazing sandwich and then to sometimes have like a really horrible sandwich. So that's how
That's
I think of
true.
CTAs. CTAs are in fact sandwiches, to answer
The
your
next time
question.
you come on this show, I think we should just have a whole philosophical discussion about whether or not it's better to have a sandwich that is okay or no sandwich at all.
Oh my god, a CTA is just a hoagie. Like look at it. It's literally like bread, and then the words are the toppings. So you were just asking me how to center the word toppings in the CTA. That's what was happening.
All right, I'm in. Okay, so we have. I think for now we can just
Yeah.
roll with this because it looks good and this is an example. So I'm gonna pull. Whoops. I'm gonna pull this one out. We'll pull this one up, and we are basically at time. Um,
Yeah.
so we can keep going here. Oh, we're overtime. We've been having so much fun that we completely lost track of
So much
time.
fun.
So I mean, I think like this to me looks very good. Obviously, we would want to do some more here. There are a lot of things that would need to be included. But what I
Yeah.
like that we were able to do today is we were able to kind of come in here and look at when we're designing something, what should we be thinking about? So we started by talking through like focusing on the people who are going to use the website. That's the most important thing. And talking about what they need. Um, and then we started talking about feel before we ever put anything down on the screen. And what I
Hmm.
think is interesting about this is if we kind of follow the path that we took, it started with like value to somebody who's going to use the website and then moved through that journey through like how they should feel to the colors that would make them potentially feel that way to typography that would support those choices, and then we finally started putting stuff on screen. And I think it's so easy to just assume we can code our way out of problems, especially as developers. I think that we have a tendency to kind of code first and think about it later. So I really, really liked going through this exercise to think, okay, what are we actually trying to accomplish, and why are we writing code in the first place? So I think that's such a cool thing to get into our heads.
Yeah.
And I feel like I picked up a bunch of little cool nuggets about like here, how to add the border for fake padding and the color theory stuff was so good. All right, chat, anything you want to ask before we start wrapping this up, and while we wait for the chat to think, Tatiana, is there anything that you want to definitely get done before we wrap this up?
No, I think what I'm going to do, and I think a fun exercise is I'm going to like take this down and then do a couple of variations where I can like think about it a little bit more and like
Yeah.
maybe Photoshop out the background and show a couple of different examples in this board so that people can see like obviously it's hard to design, on the fly with two people in the board, but I'll take this down and I'll like play with different a couple of different typesets, and
Mm-hmm.
I'll maintain um, maybe like the color palette and the images in one, and I'll
Yeah.
show how changing the type affects it, and then maybe I'll just keep all of the type and the color, and I'll change the hierarchy and show and give some notes as to how art direction can impact even when you're working in the same design system where you can't change maybe the fonts and colors, and these have been baked for you, where
Mm-hmm.
your latitude really lies. So I
Yeah.
think that that's kind of the power of art direction for developers.
Yeah. This was fantastic. We've got some thank yous coming in from the chat. It looks like Eco Derek has met EJ, and so like
Oh, they're
all
so
that
great.
good small world stuff. Yeah, EJ is the best. I've been trying to
Yes.
get EJ on the show for a while. We'll get that schedule worked out eventually. And
Good.
um, in the meantime, Tatiana, where should people go to find you online?
TatianaMac.com. I spend way too much time on Twitter at Tatiana T Mac is my Twitter handle.
Okay, so there's Twitter. Here is your website.
Mhm.
Anywhere else that you want to shout out?
I'm working on a dictionary project that I'm really excited about, and that really anchors on typography. So self-defined app. So the trick I talked about with typography for this website, I used on my own, which is that if you fall back all the fonts, if you remove all of the uh, imports for the fonts in here, this all reverts down to Helvetica, to what does it revert down to? It reverts down to Helvetica, Arial Narrow, Arial Black,
Okay.
and yeah, and you can kind of see where that happens, like where the OK hand is, that becomes Arial Black, and it just I love that aspect of art direction to influence like thinking about how to make the most performant
Mm-hmm.
sites is starting like using that limitation of we only have like 10 system fonts. How can we still make them look elegant, and then how can we enhance them when people have access to enough data to load all of those big monstrous font files?
Yeah. No, I think that's great. Well, awesome. I'm not seeing any questions come in through the chat, so I think we have sufficiently educated everyone enough for one day.
Yeah, they're like we're done.
So, Tatiana, thank you so much for coming on. This was a ton of fun. We will get this up online along with a bunch of resources for anyone who wants to dig in a little bit deeper. Um, Thank you again for coming on. This was amazing.
Thank you.
All right, chat. Stay tuned. We're gonna raid, and we will see you next time.